Now the challenge, what we are going to do is first we are going to set up a local machine, set up LLM on that, and try to run it like a manual chat interface, and then start a server, expose that model through an API, and then use a no-code platform to consume that API and show that, and then use the same thing with Python. We will try two different forms of hosting the LLM server. Let's get down to it. So in order to set up the LLMs, one of the easiest thing is most of us have an access to GitHub. So go to GitHub, code space, and create a blank template. Now typically it's blank, but the good thing is it comes up with Python setup. I usually like to have a dark background, so let me set that to the dark background. And what we would do is we'll create a simple Python file to kind of make sure that the environment works. It's just a simple thing, create a file, just a hello world application. And as you create it, right, and run it, the beautiful thing we can be sure that we are on the right path is immediately we'll get a pop-up telling do you have to install Python, which means that you're on the right track. Let it install. And when running Python programs, always good to have an environment so that we don't have libraries clashing with each other. Press Ctrl Shift P, go to that, create a new environment, and you would see that the environment is there. Run the program one more time to make sure that the environment is got created. As you can see, the .env shows that our environment is good. We are good to go. We're going to start up with using something like Olama. Olama is a nice server which comes on Mac. Windows, it's not there yet. For Windows, I'll tell another solution as we go ahead. Copy the command to do the install. It's absolutely easy. Go to the same code space in the terminal window, paste the command, and boom, the Olama server is ready. Next, we're going to run an Olama 2 model. You don't need to do anything. Copy paste the command, and before that, we have to start the Olama server. We started the server. Now we're going to run the Llama 2 model. That's a mistake on the title. You run the Olama 2 model. The beautiful thing is Olama figures out if the model is not there, it downloads it by itself and it starts running. I'm running a simple chat GP to find the capital of India. And since Llama 2 is heavy, the model got downloaded and it is executing. And it takes some amount of time to run. This is a very simple 8 GB machine. If you have a bigger machine, it's good. Now let's see what happened on the server, the Olama server itself. You can see that it runs on this port. It got a generate, API generate as the command, and we can also see how much time it took. Now for the change, let's try to use the Mistral model, which is lightweight, very, so again, if you list it out, you can see that there's only one model. Now I'm going to do a Olama run Mistral. Obviously, Olama server now pulls the model because it's not there from the cloud, deploys it on your machine. And then I ask the same question, what is the capital in India? As you can see, it start typing a lot of things. I was first confused why it was happening. Then I realized in the prompt I had made a mistake in India. And then it said there are different types of capitals. There's a financial capital, food capital, and things like that. So I corrected the prompt and say, what is the capital of India? And it gave me the right answer. So as you have seen, what it does is when you run Olama with that, now if I do Olama list again, you can actually see my current Olama installation has two models. I can use any model on my server. Now that's pretty good. Before using it for API, I have to open the server to the clients. So in code spaces itself, I'm going to go and set the port visibility to public. And once I have set it to public, it is, and I open the browser, it actually opens up and I can actually see Olama is running good. My server is running ready to do. Now let me test the APIs. What I do is go to the tried and tested friends of friends. We have different APIs on the Olama. There's documentation for that. First, let me try to get the list of all the models. So I go to Postman, create the tag and send a request. Now I get a JSON of the two models which are there and the specific specific items of each. This is similar to the Olama list command line command that I had given earlier. Now I'm sure that my API is working well. Next, let me try to generate some answers. So I create a simple test. Again, I try to do what is the capital of India, and I have to give API/generate. That is the API to generate completions with the Olama server. And the model which I give, it uses the model, and I can give any model. As you can see, it just generated what is the capital. Now what I'm going to do is I've tested the API, my local server is running. Now let me use a no code platform. I'm introducing a new thing called Flowwise. It's pretty simple to install. There are multiple ways of installing it. One, you can install it on a base machine, or you could actually use it using Docker. It's a drag and rule kind of a thing where you don't have to write a lot of code. You can think about your application. I'm using Docker. So I will run Docker on my own machine. I go and create a new chat flow. The first thing is, let me do a capital finder. Okay, so I'm just going to make an app. Given a country, it will give the capital. Okay, so the first thing which I'm going to do is I need to use a model. Now, instead of using an OpenAI model, I'm going to use a Olama model. So incidentally, Flowwise asset, I have the Olama model, and the URL that I would give is the URL which I have running on CodeSpace. Then I have to define a prompt template for it. And also I have to have a chain which is going to connect these two things. Okay, so I have a LLM chain which will connect it. Now I would get the model name which I want to use, set it into the node into my Flowwise tool. The URL I have already set it to point to my CodeSpace, and the template is what I'm saying, capital of the country, and country is the only prompt that is going to be given in the chat. So I go to a standard interface and I type in the country name. It should automatically use my Olama server to find out the capital of the country that's given. So I open the chat window and I type India. That's it. It makes a call to the LLM and it should give the capital of India. So let's just try another country, Norway, and then it will generate the capital of Norway. Now this is a very quick way of deciding it. Now an interesting thing is I could actually expose this existing thing as a chat, which is a regular thing which I can share with my end users, and I give Hungary and then Budapest. So this is advantages people without Flowwise, the other users in your company can use that. Now let's say I want to tie this to an application where I'm trying to use the Flowwise flow as a application, and Flowwise gives an API which I can just copy paste. Now I open another code and just call it capital finder and actually make a simple REST call to the Flowwise installation. So I'm actually calling Flowwise, which in turn calls the Olama server. In my query, I give the country and the name. Because it's an app, obviously I'm hard coding it. You can do it however you want. So I'm basically calling Flowwise from Python. Flowwise in turn calls the Olama server. So it's like Flowwise becomes a middleware. Okay. And my Olama server is the background. As you can see, the capital of Argentina is Buenos Aires. Okay, not a very big thing, but this is a quick way of demonstrating how you can build it. Now let's assume Olama server Unix is too tough. No problem, got you covered. Download LM Studio. LM Studio is an interesting tool which I've played with. There are other things. This is what I have played with. The beauty of LM Studio is currently I have 3 models downloaded on that. It's very easy. You can just search for a model and download it. As per your computer's memory and size, you can type different types of model. I took a Q5 model, quantization 5, which is lightweight, and I wanted to test stuff. And with Mistral Dolphin B, I'm testing the same thing. What is the capital? The beauty of LM Studio is it gives a ChatGPT like interface. Now, having tested that, now instead of a Olama server, let me run a LM Studio server. So it's built in, it is OpenAI compatible, which is awesome. And what I do is just in LM Studio, go to the server tab and click start server. It gives code also, so you don't have to think too much. I just copied that code, go back to my Visual Studio on my local machine, copy paste that code. Okay, it looks like as though I'm calling OpenAI. If you notice that there's no OpenAI key that I'm going to provide, because I'm calling my own instead of LM Studio, which is running a Dolphin 2 Mistral. And against that, I'm going to ask a question: what is the capital of Venezuela? And once I run this, now what's happening is when this code run, this API, this Python code actually calls the server which is running in LM Studio. Unlike the previous one which called Flowwise, which called the Olama server. So here the model itself is hosted by LM Studio, and it exposes the model through a API, OpenAI compatible server, and I'm able to generate the code for it. So the basic idea is, if you look at what you can do, is for ones who have this constraint, have your own server, have your own API, try to do flow wise to use less code. Once you're kind of familiar with the prompt and other things, then go to the Python code and then make it into a strong application.